downhill mountain bikes specifically have progressed quite a fair bit over the years, from sort of 2-inch travel bikes through to 8-inch travel bikes, some up to 10 these days. So yeah, it's the type of thing you can do with all your mates. Yeah, it's a good fun sport. You can do it competitively if you want to, or you can just do it knocking around having fun. I mean, downhill specific bikes, as I said, you can use maybe starting with a 6-inch travel bike. When I mean that, I mean, most of the bikes for downhilling are dual suspension. 6 inches of travel, so you can see it through the back of the bike, and maybe 6 up front. A lot of the guys that are competing at a high level will maybe use 8 inches to 10 inches of travel bikes, which make it a lot easier, especially when you're riding over a lot of rough terrain, which is what downhill is all about. For beginners, I started out on a hardtail mountain bike. Hardtail meaning no suspension on the back, but just the front suspension. So yeah, that's a good starting point, and basically with a hardtail you can hone your skills as well, so it makes it a lot easier when you do make that transition over to a dual suspension bike. Yeah, you're ready to ride. So as far as components go, what you see here, this is our Glory Zero 2012 model. Basically what you see here is a front suspension fork, which is made by RockShox, one of the leading suspension companies in the world. That comes in at 8 inches of travel here. Has a lot of different adjustments on there for top end racing and top end speed. Also gets you hydraulic disc brakes, which are made by Avid, RockShox's sister company, brother company. So yeah, they're front and rear as well. Then you have also the back here, you have your rear shock. So partnered with the RockShox suspension fork up front, you have your 8-inch travel vivid rear shock as well, with your adjustments as well. Then you have your running gear here, what we call, which is basically your true native crankset, and just also a chain guide as well, which basically with downhilling, because you're over a lot of rough terrain, you get a lot of chain stuck. So yeah, this chain device here basically allows you to keep pedaling, and yeah, simply just hold your chain on and doesn't let it drop. Then you have your rear derailleur at the back here, which is the top of the range SRAM XO rear derailleur, which obviously is controlling all your gears through the back here, which is operated up front through your trigger, right hand trigger. So yeah, I think that kind of pretty well covers it. I mean, you've got obviously your wheel set. There's a lot of different wheel sets that you can use. There's DT Swiss, which is one of the top leading brands in the world as far as wheel sets go. Hey guys, now that you've got the right bike, you've got to learn how to maintain it, which is probably one of the most important things is basically bike maintenance. It's just going to make the longevity of your bike and the components on it last a lot longer. So yeah, here's maintenance.
In order to get the best out of your bike, you need to make sure that it's well maintained. There are a few critical areas that you should check over virtually every ride just to make sure that you're going to be getting the best out of your bike. Probably the most important screws and bolts to check would be your pivot bolts here. Just check them, make sure that they're not loose, but don't try and over tighten them. So just insert your multi-tool and just give it a check to make sure that it's not loose. If it is loose, just tighten it up till it's snug. If you're not sure, take it down to someone who would know. The other thing to check, apart from all your pivot bolts, would be your sort of derailleur bolts. They're also very good just where the anchor points are. Also check your chainring bolts, because these here can come undone with all the rough and tumble that your bike will go through. Just check your seat post bolts and all those sort of bolts that are important. Don't forget your stem bolts as well. You don't want to have your ride wrecked by your handlebars coming off in your hand. Other areas to look for on your bike that you need to pay special attention to would be your tyres. Your tyres are going to be going through quite a lot with all the rocks and logs and sticks they're going to be going over, so just give the tyres a spin and just check the tread on them just to make sure that there aren't any of the actual sort of side knobs or anything like that that are being pulled out, or if you haven't got any sidewall gashes or anything like that from rocks that could put a damper to your day. Other areas that you need to pay special attention to would be your brake calipers. It's not uncommon when you're riding in sort of very muddy conditions for your calipers to actually get quite full of mud. Just have a look down through the top of them here, and if you can't see daylight down through the other side, then you need to take them out and give them a clean, just with a Q-tip or a plastic tire lever or something that's not going to do any damage to them. That's also very important. And just again, give the wheel a spin and just take a line of sight down the actual disc itself, just to make sure the disc is running straight and that it hasn't been bent in a crash or something like that. Obviously, sort of mentioning crashes, if you do have a stack, just make sure before you start squirting off again in your ride that you give the bike a quick check over, just to make sure that everything is safe and that nothing's been broken or damaged seriously that could sort of fail on you when you carry on riding. Sadly, punctures are an inevitable part of riding your bike, so I'll just briefly run you through how you should change a tube. Firstly, you just want to make sure that you've actually let out whatever remaining air might be stuck in your tube. So just depress the valve and squash down on the tyre with your body weight just to get rid of all the excess air that's still in there. Next, rotate the tyre so that you're working opposite the valve. You want to take a tyre lever, and for downhill bikes you need a fairly stiff one. Insert it so that you can get it underneath the bead of the tyre. It can be a little bit tricky. Pull that out and put some tension on it, and then just work your fingers around here just to make sure that you've actually got the bead off the actual rim itself. And then using your thumb, can slip sometimes, or twice. Slide that round so that you're actually just taking the bead off the rim and work it round. Take out your tube. And cast it aside. Now, thanks to the magic of television, we use the same tube here because this one was actually still fine. What you want to do is just inflate the tube so that it just holds its shape. You can either use a pump for this or use your lungs. You just want it so that your tube just barely holds its shape. That way then it'll help you insert the tube properly into the tyre. Start by locating the valve into the valve hole, and then start to stuff the tube into the tyre all the way around. And actually I've fluffed that.
Now that you've even got the right bike and you've maintained it and looked after it, it all comes down to the pilot. So yeah, if the pilot isn't such a good rider, then maybe you need to be looking into some decent safety gear. So it's all about safety. One of the main features that you do need in mountain biking as far as safety is concerned is a full face helmet. Pretty obvious reasons: full face protecting, the front, chin, jaw, nose. Your visor as well, protecting from sun, rain, wind, whatever. There's a couple of different styles you can get. Carbon fibre like this one starts at about $350. Or basically there's entry level helmets that start at about $169. Just difference in weight and also appearance. Okay, so that's the Fox V3 helmet. Then basically we have like a a lot of guys are wearing elbow guards, this type of thing. Starting in at about $39.95, something like that. Pretty good, just to run underneath your jersey as well. So yeah, that's pretty good. A lot of the guys these days are running just a knee guard, Fox knee guards, 661, Dainese, a lot of different brands out there. A lot of them are very similar these days. These are great, they don't move, they don't twist or anything. So, I mean, they come in at about $90 or something like that, which is just a Fox knee guard made out of neoprene. Otherwise, same similar thing, it's just like a Fox knee guard, but it's also got the built-in shin as well. you'll find with downhilling you get a lot of rocks and rubble and that type of stuff just flicking up into your shins and stuff like that, so more protection the better. Also, a lot of guys tend to run long pants, like motocross pants these days as well, for extra protection for that type of thing too. The main thing which has really taken off over the last couple of years is neck braces as well, which has come from a motocross background. A lot of the guys in motocross are wearing these, basically designed to protect you from breaking your neck. So, I mean, look, one of these, starts at about sort of $350 to $400. But hey, it's a pretty good price to pay for it's going to stop you from ending up in a wheelchair. So, perfect. There's a couple of different brands, so you have to do these, Alpine Star, but yeah, there's plenty of different options out there at the moment. Okay guys, so now that you've basically got the correct bike, you've learned a bit about bike maintenance, your safety gear, you're all ready to hit the trails. So basically this is about getting out and learning and understanding your bike and just learning more on different types of trails. One thing that you find mostly on a mountain bike trail is a lot of turns, but mostly a built-up turn is called a berm. Different ways you can enter a berm. A lot of guys tend to basically enter a berm and apex pretty much and try to carry speed on the exit. A lot of people do make a mistake with berms coming too hot and not exiting fast enough. So yeah, berms are really about. Depends on the type of berm, really depends on, I suppose, yeah, how hot you come into it. Drops, different types of drops. Obviously there's rock ledges, rooty drops, muddy drops, so yeah, it all depends. Whether you're riding in summer or winter as well, and how you approach that type of thing. Look, I mean, drops, really you come in, the faster you come in, the easier it is. The slower you come in, the more yeah, you can tend to sort of not steer in the correct direction. Best way is to come into a drop and just basically pinpoint, look further ahead as to where you want to land, and just get your body weight back so your front end doesn't drop. So yeah, you really want to be sort of landing both wheels on the ground at the same time when you do land. Straight jumps. Straight jumps depends on the size of the jump as well, and the landing, as to how fast and how hard you want to hit it. Straight jumps, pretty much I try to hit sort of flat out. Probably the easiest way to do it. Once again, similar technique to drops is basically getting your body weight back and trying to land two wheels at the same time when you're landing. Hips, yeah, it all depends. Some people like to hip right, some people like to hip left. I had trouble hipping right. Left hips, like at Eagle for instance, are quite easy. Yeah, so I mean, hips are basically a jump where you're coming in and you're turning and jumping. So you're coming and turning and jumping left. Basically you're in the air turning left, or you're in the air turning right. Different kinds of steep sections, chutes as well, like through Europe and that type of thing, a lot of chutes. We've got a lot of chutes which are like up at Waterford Gully, that type of thing, which you can kind of point and skip down. Or basically there's a lot of different chutes, like maybe at up at Horsenells as well, which are quite rocky and shaly, which really you're just sort of letting the brake out and just trying to point the bike. So So yeah, I mean, once again, kind of it's all about speed control as well, and it depends on the steepness of the chute. Rock gardens, depends on the size. I mean, I find with rock gardens, the faster you hit them, easier they are to navigate. Once again, if you come in quite slow and you're trying to pedal through a rock garden, you tend to get bounced around and your steering doesn't stay precise. So yeah, as far as rock gardens, just try and hold it flat out. It depends on the size and what's on the other side of the ending of the rock garden. Remember guys, it's all about having fun, enjoy it, get out there with your mates and shred some turns.